Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Sabeen Foundation podcast called Geek, Dhaba. With us today, we have Amar Khan, internationally recognized cosplayer, recent winner of Isekai Con, second place holder,
Hello,
and
everyone.
and we have card game enthusiast and major Pokemon fan, Amsef.
Great to be back for another installment of the Geek Dhaba.
And it's always good to have you back. So today we're going to have a special episode. The 25th anniversary of Pokemon is coming around, which means it's time for us to have a little retrospective of every single Pokemon game we've played so far. Today we're going to be tearing up every Pokemon game main series to date. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
For me personally, we said it's Pokemon's 25th anniversary, and we're all turning 27 this year. So it just kind of it's like surreal to think that we basically grew up together with Pokemon, and Pokemon is forever tied to us in that way. So it's kind of a terrible feeling to feel like 25 years have passed since we last played the first one, but still going strong.
Amar, what are your thoughts?
Man, I don't know. I got into Pokemon from the very beginning around because of the movie, but I didn't get into the games until much, much later. But this is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I still have a lot of good memories with the games, and I honestly can't wait to start tearing them because I might get some haters.
All right, so with that said, let's just hop into it and hope the internet doesn't blow up because of our choices.
I mean, I guess we just have to make it clear that this is sort of like we're trying to be as objective as possible, but there's with Pokemon, especially if you've been like around for as long as we have, there's obvious hits of nostalgia, and that's obviously going to play a factor. So,
Obvious.
everyone has their own opinion of every game. So, hopefully people won't get too mad.
Exactly. So let's just hop right into the tiering, and hopefully we can just get it over with. But the thing I want to make clear is that obviously this tier is not a definitive tier of Pokemon games. It's more our opinion on all the games.
Hmm.
So there's going to be a little bit of here and there with the general consensus of games. But this is just like our experience of playing these games growing up until today. So just wanted to make that clear as a little disclaimer. All
Hmm.
right. So now we have the tier list up. Hope everybody can see it. Uh, let's get started. So now we're going to talk about Gen 1. Now, my opinion on Gen 1, and I'll place it on the tier list and you guys can kind of debate on where it should go if you guys agree with me or disagree. But Gen 1, starting off the entire Pokemon journey for like, if not Amar, because he started with Yellow, but like the first two games, me and Amsh, we started with that, Blue and Red. And although you technically played both, but like Blue was
I
like
played
the
more blue than red, honestly. I didn't play red until much later. I played exclusively blue.
same. I played Blue growing up, loved it. I still play it to this day. I have an original copy that I play on my Game Boy as well, and I love this game to bits. I play it once a year at least. I've played it many times. I think I've sunk 900 hours into this game over the last few years. Right, finished the Pokedex, got Mew, did all the glitches, level 100 everything. I mean, I love this game, but there are things to consider.
Hmm.
Like it is still like the first Pokemon game. It's great. You get to see Mewtwo. If I had to say starting off, I would have put this in S tier, but like I feel like this game could have been so much more. And for that, I feel like I'm gonna put it in the B tier. I feel like it belongs in B, mainly because despite it being a relic of like older systems, I still feel like it brings a great game experience, especially to me. But I think that's more nostalgia playing a factor in it.
Hmm.
I just, I don't know. I think of the first generation of Pokemon games, and I just have these wave of emotions and memories attached to it. That I remember us playing in America, like just sitting in the car, right? You completing the Pokedex in 2006, just kind of like what. coming back from the pool, going to Mr. Freeze for ice cream.
Uh-huh.
Right. So like that kind of stuff, like those memories attached to it just makes me feel like it's not the best of Pokemon games by far, but like I feel like it's not the worst either.
Okay. I actually 100% agree with exactly where you placed it. If I had to pick where to put Gen 1, I would have put it bang in the middle of the list. And again, just speaking to what you said, one of the best soundtracks in the entire series.
Yeah.
Iconic in every facet of the imagination. I don't think there's a single song in this game that I don't have committed to memory because I love that soundtrack so much.
Yeah.
Original 150 Pokemon, a solid roster of Pokemon as well. Pokemon that if anyone sees, they can identify, yeah, that's a Gen 1 Pokemon because they're so ingrained in our sort of Pokemon conscious. The only sort of pitfalls that Gen 1 has is that it was the first. And being the first, there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that you're sort of trying to throw things against the wall and see what sticks, right? You can't really build off anything. This was our first attempt, right? The only thing really holding Gen 1 back is that it is in a terribly glitchy mess. Like if you ever just sit down and like watch like a speed run of Gen 1, or if you just sit down and try and break down the problems with Gen 1, it's sometimes surprising how they even shipped Gen 1 because there's so many things that don't work. For example, how the game checks for accuracy in the game. So a move that is 100% accurate in Gen 1 is not actually 100% accurate because how the game sort of checks for accuracy, that it determines a number between 1 and 256. However, the way they programmed it, if the number is 256, then the attack will miss. Exactly. So there is a 1 in 256 chance of even a 100% move not hitting. And another example is like Focus Energy. Focus Energy's effect is to increase critical hit ratio. And in the game, it actually decreases critical hit ratio. So there's like little things that they didn't polish right quite enough. And, just like some of them, actually I had a conversation with someone one day and they had never played Gen 1. I think they started with the Gen 3 remakes of Gen 1. And then I brought my Game Boy Color in one day and I showed them Gen 1. And they were so mesmerized by how primitive Gen 1 was without the modern conveniences that it was basically unplayable to them. So in sort of that vein, if you're like a modern gamer or you've never played Gen 1 before and you play Gen 1 now, after experiencing any of the Pokemon games, it is sort of a hard ask because there's a little barrier to entry, but I still love them. I still think they're probably still my favorite games in the series. Well, second favorite games. We'll get to my favorites in a bit.
I feel like I know what your favorites might be, and I think we might have the same. Amar, do you want to weigh in on the Gen 1 games?
I can weigh in as little as I can. Honestly, when it comes to the original Gen 1 games, I did not play them that much, if at all. I started off with Pokemon Yellow, and that too back in 2003, I believe. I started playing Pokemon Yellow. But the one thing I can agree with is that the soundtrack is absolutely amazing. I actually have the entire soundtrack for the entire Gen 1 Pokemon games. And in fact, when I did my radio show like 4 years ago, I would actually use some of the songs to make my segues into the next categories of my topics. Like I would start off with the first song, then the song would be like just strolling into like Route 2 or something, Route 1, Route 2. I would use that as my Pokemon fun facts section, or like a fun fact section in general. I would use that music to talk about fun facts.
What's interesting about that, jumping off that, I actually have bits of the soundtrack in 3 different ways. I have the original, sort of the 16-bit one. I have the Pokemon Stadium remasters of the tracks. And then I have the Pokemon anime remasters of the tracks because each of them have a different version. Wow. Because it's just such a good soundtrack.
I agree. The Gen 1 soundtrack is amazing. I still listen to the Gen 1 soundtrack when I'm working sometimes. I'm just like, Spotify Gen 1, there you go.
So okay, listen. And can we agree, if you ever go bicycling in your life, that's the theme playing in your head?
Yes.
Yes.
Like even when I'm just scrolling, just mindlessly just doing my work and I just want to have some happy music in my head, it just plays in my head. When I want to go into my happy place, it just plays in my head.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with where Gen 1 is, although technically the tier list I've seen keeps it much lower. But like, I'm pretty happy with where we positioned it right now.
Yeah, I would never take it lower than C tier, but I think because of the nostalgia, because of just what it means to the franchise, this is what Pokemon began with. You have to sort of give it its kudos. And
Exactly.
don't get me
It was.
wrong, they're
Yep. Sorry.
solid entries. It's not like they're unplayable.
Oh, definitely.
Hmm. Like I said, for some people they might not be they might not be playable too much, but they were the reasons we got more games in the first place.
Mhm.
They're the reasons that the franchise grew to what it was today. They were still popular for the time being, although today's a lot of players may not like them as how they are now. But some people, yeah, I mean, even me, eventually down the road, I would love to give them a play, like again from the beginning, just to see where we started off.
Can I just bring up two gripes really quick before we move on to the next generation?
Sure.
Sure.
Gripe number one: some of the sprite work in the American releases is terrifying.
Oh yeah.
And the other gripe I have, this is like the most niche gripe I could have picked of these games, but I'm picking it right now. Why in the name of God does Bruno have two onyxes?
I agree. I think it's mainly because there weren't a lot of other Pokemon they could have given him. That I don't know.
But there
Actually,
are.
no.
But there
I mean,
are. That's
yes,
the problem.
Golem and everything. You could
No,
have
not even Golem.
you could
Look,
have
Bruno is the fighting master, right?
right.
His team in Gen 1 is Onyx, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Machamp, and Onyx.
Right.
Okay? There are two other fighting types in Gen 1. There's Primeape and Poliwrath.
True.
His team could have been Primeape, Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Machamp, and Poliwrath. And Poliwrath also gives him dual types, so he could have had a different angle as well.
You would have had a much
I
better
think,
advantage.
okay, so I think it's more a question of balancing.
I guess, but like I don't think Poliwrath and Primeape are like that much stronger that they would unbalance his team.
No, it's not a matter of strong. It's a matter of having an Onyx there for like having two Onyx there for your starter choice. Had it been say Bulbasaur or Squirtle, you would have had that water grass advantage. And if you picked Charizard, you would have had the flying advantage over the fighting types.
I guess, but that always irked me that there's like if there were no more fighting types, I'm like fine, Onyx is okay. But if they're available fighting types, why would he not use them?
Then he seems more and more like a rock type Elite Four with a few fighting elements rather than proper pure fighting Elite Four.
Anyway, that's my TED talk on why Bruno sucks. But let's move on.
All right. So moving on from that, let's talk about Pokemon Yellow. Okay, so Amar knows this, and I don't know if Amsh knows this, but I hate Pokemon Yellow. I absolutely hate Pokemon Yellow. It's still Gen 1, right? But the game just throws you into the game with this crippling disadvantage at the start of the game. Like your first gym, ground rock, not even like rock type. Like electric attacks can still do damage to rock types, right? But both of Brock's Pokemon are ground rock, which means they're not unaffected against electric attacks. The game throws you into this disadvantage, and it's like, oh, now you have to level up your Pikachu to level 25 just to beat the first gym. Or catch a Mankey somewhere in the beginning, that 5% encounter rate for Mankey, find that Mankey, then train that to like level 10 or something so it knows low kick, and then go fight the gym.
For me personally, I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it more like it's a mirror because I think Pokemon Yellow is basically based off the anime, correct? Like it's based on the first series anime. So in my head, I thought it was like, well, you don't have to level up Pikachu. You have to catch a Caterpie like Ash did and make it a Butterfree. And Butterfree will learn Confusion, and then it can take on Brock's Pokemon.
See, that's normally the way that I tried it, but then you realize that bug Pokemon are weak against rock types.
They are, but I mean, both Geodude and Onyx both have terrible special, so it sort of balances out.
I mean, sure, but like, I mean, yes, I understand the whole anime on it, like the linkage, but I still feel like this game kind of threw you in a disadvantage. I mean, it tried really hard to catch the anime, and it did for the most part. You getting all the starters, you getting like a lot of cool Pokemon.
Jesse and James are in the game.
Jesse and James are in the game, exactly. It did a lot of stuff well, but that disadvantage in the beginning of the game leaves that sour taste in my mouth. And it always will. Because I'll always have horrible memories of sitting in the route between Pewter City training that Pikachu or training that Mankey. And just for that, you guys can try to convince me otherwise, but I'm putting it in C.
Okay, I will try to convince you otherwise. And there's one solid reason why I think it should be either at their level or slightly better. There is one reason. Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, they did fix some bugs from the first games. Charizard can learn Fly, for example, in Yellow. So they did do some tweaking, which I appreciate. But the number one thing I think which should put it on their level is the impressive sprite work. They went back and redid all the sprites, and all the sprites look amazing. Also, the Pikachu following you thing, and plus you can sort of ask it how it feels about you, the friendship. That was the first instance of friendship in the games. And I also really, really appreciate the fact that you get the other starters the same way you do in the anime. Like Squirtle's from Officer Jenny, you get Bulbasaur from a lady who runs like the Pokemon daycare, and Charmander's been abandoned by its trainer. Because in essence, it's almost exactly the same game. And really, it's that first gym that's sort of what's separating you from the rest of the game. Because once you get past Brock, the game opens up completely. I would give a bid that it should be on the same level just for the good sprite work.
I think Amar is the person who can convince us the most on whether it should move up or not. Because I mean, I agree with you. Sprite work's amazing. Having access to all that stuff is amazing as well. Especially the Pikachu sprite, Pikachu voice bite as well in the game. Considering that being a big achievement for the the technology it was on. Right, but like personal opinion, I put it on C. You have some pretty decent points for moving it up to B. But let's see, like since Amar has like probably the most experience of all of us on Pokemon Yellow, since he did play it like 4 times before he moved on to Generation 3, we should definitely hear his opinion on it.
Well, you guys already covered a lot of ground for what I wanted to talk about. Thanks for that. But one thing I'll definitely say, I don't know if it'll convince you to bring it up or anything, but this is something that for me personally, and for probably a lot of other people, would actually be a good argument here, is that when you start off watching the anime, you will want to play Pokemon Yellow because yes, you're being more connected to the anime. Because if you start off with the anime, you see, oh, Pokemon Yellow, I'm going to have Pikachu as my starter. That'll be something that'll want to get you into playing Pokemon right away, because it's similar to the how you do things in the anime. You're following how you do things, or how Ash does things in the anime as it goes along. Everything more or less is the same thing. It wouldn't make it a good game. It's a fun game. I enjoyed it as much as I played it. Every time I got a chance, I did everything I could in the game. But the idea that it was connected to the anime would make people want to get it more. Yeah, you play Pokemon Red, you play Pokemon Green, you play Pokemon Blue, depending on where you're from. You would want, you start off with the games and you're like, okay, fine, this is a good RPG game. But if you are watching the anime and then joining in, Pokemon Yellow would be the best thing to start with. And this is what would get more people into it, rather than the main RPG games, at least in my opinion. So yeah, it may not be the best out of them. Yeah, it probably does deserve to be in C tier for most cases, but for any reason, it would probably have boosted some sales comparatively just by the anime existing.
I have one more really cool thing about one thing I personally love about niche thing I like about Yellow. So you start off with, well, you're supposed to start with Eevee because I think Professor Oak catches an Eevee for you or is offering you an Eevee, then your rival comes and bumps you away and takes the Eevee, and then you get the Pikachu. The really, really thing I only found out, I think, a couple of years ago is what your starter's Pokemon turns into, which evolution it becomes, depends on the outcome of your first 2 battles. If you win both, it becomes a Jolteon, so you have no type advantage. If you win one, lose one, or if you skip the second battle, which is optional, it becomes a Flareon, which is neutral. if you lose both times to your rival, it becomes a Vaporeon, so you have type advantage in the finale.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. I think last year you told me that, and I was blown away because even I didn't know that.
I didn't. I only found out like I don't know where I found it out, but I'm like, oh, so that's how it determines what's what.
Right? So like even for me, who like spent a lot of time playing Pokemon and like studying the games and everything, even that blew me away because I didn't know that. So Amar brought up a pretty decent point about sales. I mean, in 2000, Pokemon Yellow did hold the world record for the most selling computer game. Okay, I guess we'll move it up to B. You guys convinced me. Right? But I'm not gonna
Yay.
put it higher than that. I'm not gonna put it higher than that. All right.
Okay, and just one quick thing about Gen 1 before we move on. I just want to like, if people don't understand how battling works in Gen 1, there's a bunch of YouTube videos about how sort of the battle system works, but just know it is the most flawed battle system in the entire series because special is one stat, and that basically breaks the entire game because your special is both your attack and defense. So if you have high special, like Chansey, for example, who is normally not a offensive-minded Pokemon, is one of the best Pokemon in the game because it has a single special stat, which is like super high. So that's an entirely different, we could do a whole video on the complexities of Gen 1 battling, but man, Gen 1's battle system was bad.
We could definitely, let's put that on the docket.
Oh, I would love to talk about Gen 1's battling.
We'll definitely put that on the roster. So let's move on to Gen 2 real quickly. Gen 2. My favorite generation of Pokemon. I absolutely love the second generation of Pokemon games. The region is so beautiful. I mean, if Pokemon were real, I would live in the Johto region. I love it so much. The Japanese aesthetic is so prominent in that entire region. I love, like, my favorite Pokemon is Scizor, and Scizor came in Gen 2. I mean, I would just, there's nothing I can say to express my love for Generation 2. Having playing the new region for the first time and then finding out you can go to the Kanto region. The post-game content in this game is phenomenal. Being able to go back into the Kanto region, play all those gym battles again, and then fighting, yourself or the canonic version of yourself from the first game. It's amazing. I absolutely love it. And I swear, in a perfect world, I would put it in S tier. But I'm going to put it in A tier. I cannot express in words what I feel for this game. I love it. I always go through this region. Blue and this are the games I've played the most in my entire life. 900 plus hours in both regions. I mean, in the first three generations, I have 900 hours plus on all three generations. But like these two games are like the games that I can walk through blindfolded, most likely. And gold and silver just do it for me. Gold in particular, actually, because like when I think Amsh bought it for me for my birthday at some point. That's how I got gold. Right, and you bought the one
the
of
double
those
card for it. There was I think it was it was some weird double card I found that it had both gold and silver on it.
Exactly, and I still had that up until a few years ago, and its battery dried out, so you couldn't save it. But I played it. I played gold on that. I loved it. It was amazing, and yeah. So I'm just I just feel like it belongs in A tier. You guys are welcome to convince me to make it lower or anything, but this is my personal nostalgia and everything in play.
Well, Omer, you know how much I love the Gen 2 games. Johto is my favorite generation as well. In terms of what it did for the franchise, it sort of like modernized it, and it sort of improved on whatever everything Gen 1 did, Gen 2 improved on. However, I do have a bone to pick with the Gen 2 version of these games. If newer versions never existed, some games we'll get to in a bit. If those did not exist, I would be 100% on board with you. These games are A tier. But when those particular games came out, they exposed so many little itty bitty flaws you didn't notice initially about Gen 2. And when you go back now, you can sort of see those flaws as glaring issues. So let's get the positives out of the way. Another excellent soundtrack. Incredible roster of Pokemon. I love the Gen 2 roster. I love that they took Gen 1 Pokemon and then also gave them like new evolutions or branching evolutions. That was beautiful. The only gripe I have with the Gen 2 games is the scaling of the game. Gen 2, the originals anyway, are horribly scaled in terms of, you know, how powerful your trainers are. Especially like after you beat the Elite Four and you open up Kanto. Kanto is such a breeze to get through. Sure, Pokemon Trainer Red is a hard battle, but everything else is like so mundane at that point that there's no, I feel like the scaling was really poor in the game. Like, I mean, like I think Jasmine, Chuck, and Price are basically like around the same level. So you don't really have to train a lot, which is kind of good, but it's also kind of like sad because there's no challenge. And that's really my only gripe with Gen 2 in that regard. And it does, I feel like it does drag it down just a bit because after a while you get so strong that nothing feels like it's a challenge anymore until Red. But yeah, that's my only real gripe with it. And for that reason, because again, just because the remakes exist, I would put them down to B, maybe even C, because that's how good the remakes are.
All right. I mean, I do agree with you on the scaling. And I did say that my nostalgia was a big factor in deciding whether that it should go into A because like
mine too, because I've played I've played the heck out of these. I love it. And my favorite Pokemon, like yours is Scizor, mine is Lugia. So seeing Lugia on the cover and being able to catch one is one of my favorite things of all time. It's just that, you know, also like with other generations, there are a lot of Gen 2 Pokemon that are just one-offs that don't have like they're just single evolutions.
like
And
Dunsparce and Shuckle, yeah.
not even that, like even like we got like Sneasel, we have Apom, Yanma, a bunch of Pokemon that went on to get more evolutions.
Mm-hmm.
And another one more gripe, the move pool is awful in Gen 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like how it's distributed. Like for example, Heracross. In modern lens, Heracross is a great Pokemon. In Gen 2, Heracross does not learn a single move by leveling up, which is a fighting move.
I didn't think of it that way.
And the only bug move it ever learns by itself is Mega Horn at like level 60 something. So Heracross is like unusable in that generation. And again, it's like the game is really well designed, really well programmed. It's just the little things like the details of leveling and the Pokemon's inherent move pools, which sort of hold it back for me.
Okay, I mean, I could be convinced. Yeah, I think I could be convinced, but I want to hear what Amar's thoughts on Gen 2 are.
If you could hear my head right now, you could probably hear crickets. Because
all right. So because you haven't played Gen 2.
Yes, but I only played because of you, Omer. Because of you, I only played the opening bit of Gen 2 because you got your replica cards. You got your reproduction cards recently, and now you made me play Pokemon Silver, I believe, just so I could have some experience of Gen 2. And then I got frustrated because it wouldn't be a night shift. I couldn't get myself a damn hoot hoot.
Yeah, so the reproduction card we got didn't have the time working properly. So forward.
The internal battery probably died, so time-based events weren't happening anymore.
Yep,
Yeah,
so because the time wasn't moving forward, it could never be nighttime and Amar could never get a hoot hoot, so he gave up.
I spent 4 hours at night randomly just going through the game, finding a hoodoo. Then I realized Omer told me in fact that the eternal battery is dry. There's no day and night events, and then I was frustrated. The one thing I wanted to get from Gen 2 in the beginning, and I couldn't even do that.
There's one thing the game did that was pretty cool though. Like there is still a 1% chance of encountering a sleeping hoot hoot during the day.
Oh yeah, there's actually you can actually get hoot hoots in the day if you use the headbutt mechanic. If you go to Alex Forest and teach like a Pokemon headbutt, you can headbutt trees and Pokemon can fall out. I think I'm not 100%, but even if it's day, sometimes hoot hoot can fall out.
Like so, that's one way to do it. Amar, you might want to grab that card again and give it a try. But okay, so
That's like my point. But like the thing is, like I love Hood, I love Noctowl, but those games, Noctowl has such a poor move pool. There's no point getting one.
Actually, you know what? I think you're right. I think my nostalgia was blinding me there for a sec. I think, for the most part, it's definitely a case of uh, Gen 2 was a great layout, but I think mechanically it just wasn't up to par when it came to, like, distribution of moves, Pokemon learn sets. I mean, I honestly can't remember a time where, okay, so like I can't remember a time where my Pokemon team would have been only Johto Pokemon.
Yeah, see, that's my point, right? Like, and then there's also this weird distribution. Like, there's some Johto Pokemon you can only get in Kanto, which never made sense to me. Like, for example, you can't catch a Murkrow in native Johto, and you can't catch a Houndour in native Johto. You have to go to Kanto to catch them.
Yeah, I see. I agree with you on that. Okay, so I guess based on that, yeah, I'm definitely gonna move this down to C now that I see some of the problems here.
Okay, there is one thing. I have one request, just a simple request.
Mhm.
Can you move Pokemon Silver in front of Gold, please?
No, gold in front of silver.
The only reason I ask, okay, look, this is the only reason. Because Pokemon Silver, you get Lugia at level 40, and in Gold, you get Ho-Oh at level 40. And whichever version you're playing, you're allowed to get the other mascot, but at level 70.
Mhm.
But at level 70, they don't know their signature move anymore. And Lugia's Aeroblast is the single coolest move in this game. The animation for it.
Okay, yeah, I have to agree on that. I know that much.
Because this is before the modern Aeroblast, which is just like a weird wind thingy. This is like based off Lugia's attack in Pokemon the movie 2000, where he has those millions of beams which concentrate into one beam, and that's the animation that for Aeroblast. And for that single reason, Lugia having Aeroblast in Silver is the reason Silver is better.
Fine.
Okay.
Just because you requested it, I'm gonna move it up there.
Yay.
But now let's talk about the next game. Let's talk about the next game, Crystal. And just to clarify, because I feel like this is going to be a big factor, we're not talking about the re-release of Crystal for the Virtual Console, because that has the Celebi event.
I really like the Celebi event.
I know, so do I. But because it has a Celebi event, I feel like it can sway this further in any direction.
Okay, and just full disclosure, when that game came out, I got it, and I did like 600 soft resets and got a shiny Celebi. Because I remember as a kid, it was so frustrating that there was an event that I couldn't access and I couldn't get a Celebi. So when I found out the Virtual Console had the Celebi event, I put days into hunting it. I finally got that shiny Celebi. So I think that's a good call, because if we included like the Celebi event, I would have put that so high because I love Celebi.
That's the reason I said it, because I know that if we include the Celebi event, this could go to S tier, but I don't want to include it because that's just because when this game came out, we had no access to Celebi, right? Because it was a Japanese exclusive event.
And even in Japan, look, I don't know how the hell people did it. You have to get your phone connected to the primitive internet of 2001, and then somehow end up getting a code for the what was it, the GS ball, I think.
Yep. With that said, Crystal, a retelling of the second generation of the game, but with more of a focus on the Suicune. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played this that much. At least not enough to know what the main story is. My only exposure to Crystal was mostly a friend of mine had it and I would play it sometimes, right? But like, the main story he did. So I'm not sure what the overall Suicune's part of the story is, but from what I can tell, it's mostly just a Generation 2 rehash. And since you played most of it, I'm gonna put it in C with the rest of Gen 2 because of my exposure to it. And because you played it more, I'm going to let you convince me otherwise.
Sure. So for me, if I had to place it, it would either be the best of the Gen 2 games or maybe one tier above. That's pushing it. But if you ask my opinion, who's played all three games, Crystal is the definitive version, because it did tweak a few more things which made it stand out from Gold and Silver. Number one, Crystal is the first Pokemon game to have animation and sprites. And believe me, the first time seeing your Pokemon move on screen, it kind of blew your mind. It had really, really good sprite work. And aside from that, if just to you sort of point out how the Suicune thing works. So in Gold and Silver, you would go into the Burnt Tower and you would sort of fall down and the 3 legendary beasts would be released. And then you could encounter them randomly in the wild. What's different in Crystal is that you will encounter them in Tin Tower as opposed to in the first you'll encounter them first in the Burn Tower, and then you'll get an item called a Clear Bell, not the Crystal Bell, which is for but another bell, and that'll get you access to Tin Tower. And inside Tin Tower, you'll see all 3 again. Raikou and Entei will run off, but then Suicune will battle you as a stationary battle. So that's really the only difference, is that Suicune is a stationary battle as opposed to a wild encounter. But aside from that, it's essentially the same story. You catch both Ho-Oh and Lugia, both at level 70. I can't remember if they both know Sacred Fire and Aeroblast, but I think they don't. The one thing I think that's the best about Crystal has nearly almost, you can basically almost complete the Pokedex with just Crystal alone, because it has almost all of the Pokemon from Silver and Gold. Like very few Pokemon are missing from the sort of the Pokedex. If you were to ask me, it's the definitive version of Gen 2. And yeah, just for that reason alone, for having sprites alone, and also I completely hired a high missus. The first ever chance to play as a girl character.
Yeah, there you go. That's actually something that was new to Pokemon at the time. A lot of people think it was actually Ruby and Sapphire that did it first. Not a lot of people know that it was Crystal that did it first.
But I feel like a lot of people didn't actually play Crystal, because I don't think the idea of a third game of the generation sort of made sense to people. And and this is actually from a friend of mine who actually played this growing up. She said that seeing a girl option in Crystal was one of the best things she ever saw playing Pokemon, because she was so happy she could just be a girl character.
Exactly. So I think I'm going to keep it at C. Amar, unless you have some inputs on Crystal. I know you haven't played
it. Honestly, no. But the only thing I can add is that some may find it tedious, but finding the legendary beasts, Entei, Raikou, Suicune, not in Crystal, of course, but finding Entei, Raikou in the grass is a lot of fun. It's frustrating. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. And okay, just one thing I will say, just to, again, I don't know if lots of people haven't played Gen 2 before, but props to Gen 2 for having the concept of shiny Pokemon revealed to us.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. And I'm always going to be I'm always going to be surprised whenever I find a shiny Pokemon. Because I remember back in the day, even though Gen 2 had shiny Pokemon, there was still all this mystery about whether or not shiny Pokemon even existed.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And
2005.
They weren't even called shiny Pokemon. They were called shining Pokemon. We weren't even sure what to call them.
Exactly. I remember we used to spend a lot of time on super cheats, and we would read about people finding shiny Pokemon, and everybody would be like, "It's fake. There's no such thing. It's fake. There's no such thing." But red Gyarados existed, and then when I finally found one in the wild, I think Amar found it for me, the Pidgey, or did I find the Pidgey? I'm not sure which one of us found the Pidgey.
Which one?
In my leaf green, I had a shiny Pidgeot because we found a shiny Pidgey. I don't remember if you were playing or I was playing, but we found a shiny Pidgey in the wild in round 1.
I think.
And you know what's really funny? You know what's really funny? The first ever legitimate shiny encounter I had, I was playing in a Pokemon Gold on an emulator. It was a Pidgey as well.
Nice. For me, it wasn't in Gold, it was in leaf green.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it's really funny that both of our first shiny encounters were Pidgeys.
Exactly. Not counting the red Gyarados, of course.
I mean, I just say full odds random encounter.
Yep, full odds random encounter.
And how cool of Game Freak to actually give you a shiny Pokemon confirmed, just to show you, hey, this exists. It might happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It was good, but I'm sad to see it in C. But I also see why it's on C, up the road a bit. Let's talk about Generation 3, Amar. If we let Amar talk, this entire podcast episode will just be about Generation
3. He's not wrong.
Right? But I know we said we wouldn't discuss things about future games until we got to them. But there's one thing about Gen 3 that pisses me off that also that's actually kind of hypocritical of the entire Pokemon community. Gen
Which
3
is
is amazing. I love Gen 3. Take it, don't get me wrong. Again, like I said, first 3 generations of games, 900 hours plus easy, right? But you know when Pokemon Sword and Shield came out and people complained you couldn't get every single Pokemon?
I know where this is going.
I know where this is going.
Right? You couldn't do that in Gen 3 either.
Mhm.
Right? You could not do that in Gen 3. And I did not hear anybody complain that you couldn't do that in Gen 3. Right? Granted, the internet wasn't as widespread back then as it is now, right? But Gen 3, to finish the Pokedex in Gen 3, you need to have the Gen 3 game, a GameCube, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, right? And Pokemon Coliseum, and that code for the Jirachi.
Okay, so yeah, let's just to get on what you need. You need one copy of the Gen 3 games, which could be Emerald, Ruby, or Sapphire. Actually, no, you'll need Emerald. If you want to do with minimum, you need Emerald. You need Fire Red. You need
Yeah.
Coliseum. You need XD Gale of Darkness. And you need all 4 of these games, a GameCube adapter for the Game Boy Advance. And after that, you have to reset almost everything multiple times to get multiple starters.
Exactly.
It is virtually impossible.
And that is why. And that, by the way, this is also not including if you miss one of those giveaway events back in the day, you were done.
Yeah. I think officially to finish the Pokedex, you don't technically need mythicals.
No, but like to 100% the Pokedex, you do need the mythicals.
Oh, if you want a personal 100% Pokedex, you do need your mythicals, which means Deoxys, Jirachi, Mew, Mewtwo, Lugia, Ho-Oh.
Yeah, and if you missed those events, if you missed one of those events, you were done for.
Yeah.
And mind you, even if we're going to get to Emerald in a bit, but like if we talk about, you know what, I'll talk about that gripe when we get to Emerald.
Okay.
But despite that, I would have to say that Generation 3 is a pretty decent amount of games, upgraded sprites, still a decent soundtrack. I mean, people complain about the trumpets, but not not that big a complaint. It was just a whole new world. I remember like being mind blown when I saw Sapphire for the first time. And I remember I saw you playing Ruby like days before I bought Sapphire.
Yeah.
Because we were at a restaurant, you were playing Ruby, and I was like, "Oh, is this the new Pokemon game?" Yeah, like okay. What's the other one? Oh, it's the blue one. Okay, fine. Dad, get me that. And the next, like a day or two later, I got Sapphire. It was fantastic. Amar's played Ruby. I played Sapphire. This is where our getting the separate games started. Me and Amar trading off the games. And even though like I have a big problem with Gen 3's way of getting the Pokédex complete, I still love this enough to put it in B.
I would go one higher. I would say they're A tier.
Okay.
They are that good. Gen 3 is so good. The Pokemon in Gen 3, I think to this day, some of the like people I speak to, some of their favorite Pokemon are from Gen 3. Great Pokemon, great move pool, really fun gyms. You can have the stupid like generic complaint, oh, too much water. I don't care about the water. Lots of really good topography. First time we've seen that in a Pokemon game. There's so many different environments. We have the ash of the volcano. We have the desert. We have Shoal Caves, which was this ice area. We had waterfalls. We had the whole shebang. You had a mix of Gen 3, Gen 1, Gen 2 Pokemon. It was a game where you could actually play with a full Gen 3 team, and you could exclude Gen 1 and 2, which I appreciate a lot. And I think Steven's one of the coolest champions ever. And I would definitely put this in A tier because I think they're sort of the first breed of truly modern Pokemon games. Like you can go back and play Ruby and Sapphire as your first games and just be completely happy and satisfied with them. I would personally bump them up just a bit to A.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I would have put them in A, but I decided to keep it one lower in case you guys had differing opinions, and also mainly because we talked about that with Gen 2 that the remakes were if the remakes existed, but the remakes kind of took care of the whole having needing to finish the Pokédex thing, that issue I had. So that's why I would have maybe put them up there, but I do agree that Gen 3 were amazing. But let's see what Amar has to say about Ruby and Sapphire. Because let's grab some popcorn, let him talk. 'Cause he's gonna be here a while.
I'll try my best to keep it brief because let's be honest, I'm actually
Okay.
working right now, so I can't really talk too much without me having to get in trouble at work. So keeping it brief, where do I start? Oh God, where do I start? Okay, let's start with the Pokemon. Let's be honest. I'm going to be perfectly honest. In my opinion, these are some of the most creative, one not the most, but probably creative Pokemon designs. To this day, my favorite Pokemon are all from Gen 3, and my top three favorite Pokemon are Blaziken, Aggron, and Latios. I just absolutely love these designs. As Pokemon, as in terms of their abilities and how they look and how I use them in the games, absolutely love them. Um, if we talk more about the game in general, I think it's. I may be wrong. Do correct me if I'm wrong. It's the first Gen 3 game to actually develop a full-fledged plot of a certain team taking over, like Team Magma, Team Aqua, dealing with the legendaries, and the legendaries are based in the plot of okay, Team Magma wants Groudon to increase the land, and Team Aqua want Kyogre to increase the seas. Uh, I may be wrong. Do correct me later.
Oh no, if you were just saying it's the first game with like a plot, then I'd say no. But if you are saying it's the first game where legendaries play a role in the plot, that is 100% correct.
Yeah, and that is what I absolutely love about the game in general. Is like it adds that to it, and that's what I absolutely love. And apart from that, there's a lot of legendaries in the game, which adds more to the side quest aspect in the game. Because you have to find Latios and Ruby, Latios and Sapphire. The Sky Pillar is one of the most frustrating ways to get a legendary I've ever had to deal with. The whole cycling towards the tower, getting up there, irritating. It's slightly better in Emerald, just slightly, but yeah. The Regirock, Regice, Registeel, they have a better way of being dealt with in the game, although a little cryptic and a very unique way to deal with it. I absolutely love that. Some Pokemon are very hard to find. I mean, to this day, no matter how hard I tried, I could never get myself a Bagon. Although I know where you get them and everything, I just never been able to get them.
I agree because there was there was this weird mystery with Gen 3 with me because I didn't know Shoal Cave existed for like the first 10 years I've ever played Gen 3. I only recently found out that Shoal Cave existed. Because I'm always sitting there looking at Pokemon. Where the hell did Glacia get a Glalie? What the hell is a Glalie? What the hell is a Snorunt?
Exactly.
Where do you catch Spheal? And then I'm looking at like Drake and he has like a Salamence, and I'm like, where the heck did you get that? And then obviously then you fight Wallace, and Wallace is like, has a Milotic. I'm like, where the hell do you get Milotic? The sort of one gripe I have with Gen 3 is that sometimes you don't see full evolutions of some Pokemon. Because I think the first time I ever saw Huntail and Gorbis, we were like in the middle of Gen 4 or Gen 5. And I'm like, these things look fake to me. I didn't know Huntail and Gorbis existed because I don't think there's a single trainer in the entire game who has a Huntail and Gorbis. I think they have Clamperls, but no one has a Gorbis or Huntail, so I didn't even know they existed.
And I remember, like, even Lovedisk you'd find on the waterfall of Evergrade City.
That's where you'd find Corsola as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these type of factors are the things I love and hate about the game. I hate that you couldn't find certain Pokemon, but the designs I absolutely love. Even to this day, if you were to show me Gen 3 Pokemon, I would love them regardless. The designs of the legendary, to this day, design-wise, I love Groudon. Groudon looks amazing. I love Latios. Again,
Rayquaza.
I mentioned I love Aggron, and these are like the Pokemon I absolutely love in Gen 3. And even to this day, I think making a Gen 3 team would, for me, is like very easy. Because if just limit me to Gen 3, I can make a very decent spread for a team, and that's what I love about it. It's the one generation I'm actually pretty knowledgeable about. And it got me into playing Pokemon a lot further. So for that factor, I would give it an A. I would put it up an A. It's not S rank, it's not perfect, but it's definitely A.
Well then, with that said, I guess we can actually move that to A. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty great games, honestly. But let's now talk about the next set of games, which is the Gen 1 remakes, being Fire Red and Leaf Green. Now, one thing I'd like to say, like really quickly, I think this is the first time all three of us played Gen 1. And I think this is the first game where we all picked different starters. I started with Squirtle, I started with Charmander, Amar started with Bulbasaur.
Mhm.
So I think that these games are great because they improve upon Gen 1 by giving us upgraded sprites, upgraded moves, better mechanics, the special attack, special defense split. Although technically we didn't get the physical special split until much later, but like still, it was still something. We got held items in this, which is an improvement. We got breeding, which was an improvement. We got the Sevi Islands, which is more post game content. We got a lot of really cool stuff in this game. We've already talked about Gen 1, and this is just basically Gen 1 on steroids, in a way of speaking. Is just Gen 1 with a lot more content behind it. Being able to go to the Sevi Islands and being able to explore all of those new locations and catching some Johto Pokemon along the way. Um, I think it was great having that plot with Lorelai, that little subplot with Lorelai in the Lapras Cave. Lapras
Hmm.
Cave, my god, that place was amazing too. And like all these extra plays, I mean, I just love it. And even playing Gen like Leaf Green Fire Red so much, it's still like sometimes you can still find a place that you've never seen before. I remember when I discovered Lapras Cave top floor with the ice puzzle. It was
Hmm.
just like, oh wow, what's this place? I didn't know this place was here before. Um, and my opinion, they belong in A, along with the rest of Generation 3 game.
I think they are definitive S tier games. They have Gen 1's foundation, which was we established a great foundation, all the Pokemon of Gen 1, all the modern conveniences that we've learned to like so far. They fixed the special attack, special defense, they fixed the battle mechanics. We got held items, we got strategy, we got abilities, we got, like you said, Johto Pokemon was such a cool novelty. My favorite thing was beating the game, going to the Sevi Islands, and then re-challenging the Elite Four. And then the Elite Four had updated teams with Johto Pokemon,
Yep.
which I thought was amazing. I think they're S tier. They have all the beauty of Gen 1 with like so much more little bit of oomph in them that I think they should go higher. I think they're the definitive versions of of Generation 1 and they should be S.
Amar, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Gen 1 has the Gen 3 remix of Gen 1 definitely had a lot of improvements to them. It was the same as Gen 1, which we all loved, and it had some improvements of Gen 3, which actually made it a lot better than it was in the beginning. So yeah, I would totally agree to that.
I mean, literally, we've talked about Gen 1 already, so I guess it does deserve the S rank spot. I'm not 100% sold on that. I mean, actually, yeah. Looking at whatever we have coming up next, I think I do agree with you.
And the
But
thing is,
then
we can always put it in S tier for now, and then if we by the end feel like it might, if there's something that doesn't like will usurp it, we could put it back down. But as of right now, where we are in the list, there it's hard not to argue them not being S tier.
yep, I agree. All right, so the next game we're going to talk about is Pokemon Emerald, and I think I can speak for most of us in this case. that this is probably the definitive version of Gen 3, right? We had a definitive story. We had the involvement of both Team Aqua and Team Magma. We had the post-game content where we could get both Kyogre and Groudon. The main focus of this game being Rayquaza. Although technically I'm not a fan of catching Rayquaza at level 70 so early on in the game, because they didn't scale the level of Rayquaza in Emerald. When you encounter it at Sky Tower as part of the story, it's still level 70.
Yeah.
Right. So
the only thing I have to say is, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No. So like I was just saying, I feel like despite being the definitive version of Gen 3, I might put it in with Gen 3 because it did a lot of things good. I would have put it in S tier. I think I still will put it in S tier, but I think I want to hear what you guys have to say to maybe put it down in A.
Yeah, for me, it's either top of A or like bottom of S. Like I can argue both ways. It's a great game. I just want to take this second to highlight how stupid Team Magma and Aqua are. The Pokemon you're trying to catch is blue. Let's get the red orb. The Pokemon I want to catch is red. Let's get the blue orb.
I agree. They're like really dumb in this generation, and they're dumb in the Generation 3 games in general. But I feel like it's despite that, Emerald did a lot of things well. Even the Battle Frontier.
Battle Frontier is so good. I have so much fun with it.
I enjoy Battle Frontier immensely, and I am like forever grateful for the Battle Frontier. And it's something that I wish was in the other games, like something as good in the rest of the games as well. But yeah, that's what I feel like it belongs in S, and I think since I'm sure you did agree, it belongs at the bottom of S. Amar, what are your thoughts on Emerald?
Emerald, I love Emerald. It has a good story. It actually has some improvements to the original, but it's still the same game. I mean, like it has, apart from the Battle Frontier edition and some other additional peaks, like being able to catch Kyogre and Groudon in the game, the two with a different side story. There's nothing extra unique in this, although I would say that it would still be in the A rank, although to be fair, it is a better game, so I would say S rank as well. But I would make an argument that it should be an A.
One thing I do have to say that one thing I did dislike about Emerald, I hate Wallace as a champion. He's such a garbage champion.
I agree about that. But I do like that we fight Steven later.
Yeah, at like full Steven, like he's like in Pokemon Trainer Red in the game.
Yeah, exactly. So that kind of makes up for it, in my opinion.
Yep. No.
I'm not a fan of Juan. I'm not a fan of Juan.
Okay. He's okay. Like he's basically Wallace with different hair. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Right, and I think that's pretty much decided on Emerald. And I think we all agree bottom S tier. Let's move on to Generation 4. Diamond and Pearl. Admittedly, I got to these games a bit late. I think I got to these games about 2 years late because I didn't have a DS. And I have to say, Diamond and Pearl, Generation 4 being great and all, and a lot of people considering it like the best generation of Pokemon games, it's not. It's really not the best generation of Pokemon games. Personally speaking, it's slow. That walk cycle is 4 frames per second on a good day. And the story is too far apart. Like you'd be playing for 10 hours before you get to third gym. And let's talk about, even the anime makes fun of how long this generation is. Right?
That's a good one.
Like even the anime makes fun of how slow this generation is. The longest span of episodes in the entirety of Pokemon history is between Ash's 7th, the Snow Point gym, and the 8th gym.
Oh yeah, I remember that because he like takes forever to fight Volkner.
Yes, because it takes them 130 episodes between that fight and that fight. It is the longest stretch between. I mean, he should have just picked up the HM for fly and just flown close by, but he was doing most of it on foot. But still, man, like, God, I love Generation 4 because it gave us a lot of good Pokemon, gave us a lot of evolutions. It gave us Gliscor, another one of my favorite Pokemon. It gave us like Magborder, Electivire. It gave us Yanmega, gave us Weavile, gave us Munchlax, gave us two new evolutions, gave us some pretty cool designed legendaries, gave us a bunch of legendaries, gave us the Arceus lore, even though technically we couldn't access it in Gen 4, which is another reason I don't like it, because they put that event in the game, but you can never access it. Like Gen 4 did a lot of good things, but I feel like for every good thing it did one thing wrong, right? And like, okay, so yes, we have updated sprites, but because it's a new engine, you're going to be completely slowed as crawl when you're walking in the overworld. And it's literally impossible to go anywhere in this overworld without a bike. Like, it's excruciatingly painful to go anywhere in this overworld without a bike. I I like the soundtrack isn't even that memorable to me, mainly because I only played it a few times. But like I remember the story well enough. I remember the gym leader order well enough. But I feel like people who praise this game as one of the best are just the people who, for the same reason we praise Gen 1, because we started with Gen 1 and they started with Gen 3 or Gen 4. Right? So I feel like this game belongs controversially at C. Now you guys can tell me I'm wrong or right.
Yeah, I think so. Sort of the skew I think that's happening now is the people who are sort of the sort of more distinguished and or more older Pokemon fans in the at least in today's atmosphere are usually people who first got a DS and started playing Gen 4. That was the first DS game. So I think that's sort of I think you hit the nail on the head that most people who think Gen 4 or love to think like Gen 4 is the best generation in their opinion is because that's their starting generation. And then again, like we said, like since you begin with a newer generation, going and playing back some of the older games sort of makes them seem worse by comparison because they don't have some of the modern conveniences. Some big things in Gen 4's favor: special physical split. I think one of the most important things ever done in Pokemon. It really, really just set the tone for competitive battling going forward. What else did I like about the game? I think one of the things we failed to mention, probably my favorite champion, Cynthia, is in this game. In terms of just as it's people consider it difficult, like particularly the one we're about to get to, Platinum, is a difficult game, which I like, considering what modern Pokemon has become now. That I enjoyed the idea of a difficult game and a difficult champion battle. But yeah, I remember playing it, and I haven't played it a lot. It's not one of the games I've played the most. I haven't sank the most hours into Gen 4, but yeah, that base in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum is excruciating. You can't get over how slow everything and everyone moves. And yeah, I mean, I think if I had to think about it, I might put it in B tier just because there's a lot of Pokemon in Gen 4 I like, but I also have no qualms keeping it where it is in C tier.
I totally agree with that. Amar, what do you have to say about Gen 4? I know you played Pearl and Platinum.
Yeah, but I'll keep mine incredibly brief. I played it a long time ago, and it was not memorable enough for me to remember the exact plot of the game. I'm going to be totally honest. I remember very little. The only thing I remember is in Platinum, the Distortion World. The Distortion World was very unique. It was very interesting for me. But apart from that, I don't remember much about this game. Even though I have played it a little bit, I played it enough to just enough to get to the Elite Four. I don't think I've even beat the Elite Four. I don't even think I fought the Elite Four. But yeah, I think I put it down after that. After I got all 8 gyms and was on my way to the Elite Four, I just stopped playing. It's like it was a fun game. It was very boring. It was like in a certain way, like its build-up is okay, its story is fine, but it's nothing special compared to the previous stuff. Previous stuff, you actually had to think about what you got to do. This, it was like, I felt like I was just pressing buttons. You know what I mean? Like it was that easy.
Fair enough. So, do you agree with it being at C, or do you want to move it, like, or do you feel like it should be higher or lower?
Uh, honestly, I think C is the best. There is definitely like maybe two games in my head that are much worse than this. But it's fine where it is. I say it stays at C.
I would say let's get to the rest of the games and then we can maybe think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But right now I'm fine with it being in C.
All right. So, let's move on to the next game, Platinum. Now, I know that I said that Gen 4 in general is just an excruciating set of games, especially the one set in Sinnoh. But Platinum did improve, like story-wise. I can't speak for pace, but I think the pace is more or less the same. But it did add a lot more to the story. The distortion word, like Amar said, was memorable. It was great. Added a nice bit of like storytelling flair to the games. And just for that, I feel like Platinum as a game deserves to go into the B tier over the other generation games. There's not much difference between the two, even though it's technically supposed to be
trying to
definitive.
think. I'm trying to think. I think there is like a noticeable shift in the some Pokemon that are more accessible. I think Platinum did get a lot more Pokemon from the older games into the game. I think because I remember there were a few that were cut from Diamond and Pearl that they sort of put into Platinum so they could help you finish the Pokedex. I also know for a fact that I think some teams were changed around. I think Cynthia is a little weaker in Platinum. I'm not sure. I think she might be weaker or stronger. I don't remember. I do know Flint gets a lot better because he actually gets fire types. Because I think in the originals he had almost no fire types.
Yep, none. He had a Lupani in his team.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Just
See, that's what I'm saying. Gen 4 wasn't the best, but Platinum tried to do better.
Oh yeah,
and it did
Platinum is
better.
definitely. If you had to play a Sinnoh game, Platinum is the best.
Yeah, Platinum is definitely maybe a tier higher than the original. But yeah, it is a much better game. It's not perfect, but it definitely improves on a lot of things.
And with that, let's put an end to the Gen Sinnoh games and let's move on to the games that I believe definitely belong in the S tier, the Johto remix. Because we have the beauty that is Johto, with the improvements that were given to us in Gen 4, the physical special split, better move sets that came across in Gen 3 and Gen 4, better attacks and everything, all the new moves. And we have a larger subplot. I think there was like you could re-challenge the gym, like all the gym leaders and everything were improved, right? Because they could have access to Sinnoh and Hoenn Pokemon as well. So you had a much better pool of Pokemon to use, all the gym leaders and the rebattles. I feel like, and let's not, I think, I'm not sure if this was Japanese exclusive, the whole Silver and Giovanni event. Um, but Heart Gold and Soul Silver, in my opinion, because they have a lot of great stuff in it, improved upon in Johto with the updated visuals, they definitely belong in S tier.
And this is the single reason why I kept the Gen 2 games in C and didn't put them any higher, because this is Gen 2 realized. These are, in my opinion, the two finest games Game Freak has ever made, because what they did, they took their best base, which was Gen 2, and then sort of just ran wild with it. We had Pokemon following us, any Pokemon, not just Pikachu. You could pick any Pokemon in your party that could follow you.
Mm-hmm.
You had like Omer said, you had the trainer rematches with the gym leaders, which was amazing. You could find gym leaders outside their gym, which was a novelty in games. You could find maybe one or two gym leaders outside the gym. In this, gym leaders actually had lives, they had schedules, they would leave their gym and you could re-challenge them. In addition to that, the issue I talked about in scaling and move sets was completely removed. Everyone was improved, and they were like, the Kanto gym leaders actually felt like, oh my goodness, these gym leaders are actually incredible. So any gripes that Gen 2, any flaws that Gen 2 had, the Gen 4 remakes completely cleaned up. Amazing visual. I'd still get chills when I watch that Lugia entrance when the kimono girls go to the waterfall and they dance and the Lugia appears from behind the waterfall. Gives me chills every time. You can get a Sinnoh starter, a Hoenn starter, a Kanto starter. There's just so much to offer in this game. There's so many great things, and there's also a battle frontier. I think in this one, I think you get access to Sinnoh's battle frontier. So
yeah, you do.
There's literally, I can't find a single flaw with the game, to the point where you can actually switch the modern music into 16-bit music.
Yes, in the radio. Yep. Just that's what I'm saying. Amar, do you have anything to add? Because this game is just, I believe this is just like one of the best Pokemon games you've ever had.
I can't really add much. Like I said, Gen 2, no matter what variation, I did not get a chance to play. Although I wanted to, I never got around to it. But I can definitely say there were some features like in Pokemon Yellow, you were able to carry up a partner Pokemon. I believe that was also transferred into Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You could do that. That was a very unique feature what I saw and I absolutely loved. It definitely improved on a lot of existing features along with the Gen 4 stuff. And yeah, it is like 100 times better than what Gen 2 was. So the original Gen 2, I mean. So yeah, this definitely deserves to be in the S rank.
All right, so that's perfect. Let's then move on to some really good games, in my opinion. Generation 5. Surprisingly, I actually love Generation 5, despite in the early days of when we played when we learned about Generation 5, we never actually liked it. We didn't like the Pokemon designs. We couldn't play it. We were just like, they don't look good. The game doesn't feel too good. But playing it later, I realized that Gen 5 is actually pretty great, considering the fact that it was just a soft reset of the entire franchise, because you could only catch Pokemon that were present in Generation 5. Like they added like 150 something Pokemon to the game, and you could only catch those Pokemon. And it was just great. I mean, being able to like forcing you to, I mean, a lot of people had complaints like forcing you to play just with with those Pokemon, not being able to access any of the older Pokemon till the late game. But I felt like it was good because it allowed you to explore, maybe learn about new Pokemon, maybe find something that you love in Generation 5. By the way, Samurott as the starter and Blitzel, Zebstrika Zebstrika is my favorite Pokemon from Gen 5. I just love the idea of an electric zebra. And the story is amazing. Team Plasma has an amazing storyline about Pokemon liberation, although it is a bit oxymoronic. But I feel like the story was well written. The gym leaders were great. The Elite Four were great. A lot of things in Gen 5, the first set of Gen 5 games were great. And as a result, I believe they belong in A tier.
Yeah, I can't really have any complaints. I think the same with you. The barrier to entry for Gen 5 was I found the Pokemon designs a bit funky. And to this day, I still don't think they're the strongest roster of Pokemon overall. There are a few duds here and there, like Basculin. And I think literally, I think the reasoning I think for Basculin's inclusion was they were running short in time. They needed Pokemon to fill the decks, and they like, let's just make a generic fish Pokemon. They made Basculin. So there are weaker designs, I agree, but in terms of mechanics, how the game runs, like compared to its Sinnoh counterparts, it moves a lot more smoothly. Some of the best sprite work, well, actually the last game to have sprite work. And at this point, they had perfected sprite work where the Pokemon would move with such detail, which I loved. And yeah, like you mentioned, I think what stands out for most people who play this game is how good the story is and how compelling N is as a character. And I guess my only real complaint with it, I think Adler was like a weak champion. Like he wasn't as, because we just had two generations with two very, very strong, imposing champions. And I feel like, Adler was like a letdown in comparison, but a great amount of legendaries, really cool legendaries that still define the metagame today, like Landorus Therian, and so much in there, and some aside from some of the weirder Pokemon, there are some genuine beauties in there. Like I adore Zorua and Zoroark, one of my favorite Pokemon. And I love Reshiram and Zekrom. I think they're some of the coolest box legendaries we have.
I agree with that. Amar, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I would like to only add one thing. Only one thing. The end battle in the end was a real pain. Absolute beauty to watch as a story, but a major pain. Like with the whole, I forgot the team play. Team. What was the team
Plasma.
name again? I forgot.
Plasma.
It was team. It was Plasma, right? I don't know why I was thinking Plasma, but I thought it was wrong. So anyway, yeah. But the whole when Team Plasma takes over, and then all the gym leaders come and help you, and then you have to fight and go through all of that tower and fight N. That was the most fun, entertaining, amazing, and restless scene I ever had to go with in the entire Pokemon game. Because everywhere I go, I have to face a battle. I'm seeing this amazing story unfold, and I'm seeing a fight take place. And then there's the Reshiram versus Zekrom fight. And then that was just absolutely amazing to me. And that's like the one thing in that I absolutely love about Gen 5. Like absolutely the best. The game itself, the story is amazing. The way it handles everything is much better. I'm not a fan of the designs that much for the Pokemon, and it has a lot of legendaries. Like I think it has the most legendaries in a generation. I think like about 17. It might get beat by Gen 7 if you count the Ultra Beast. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, this is my take.
I don't think it'll even beat. I don't think Gen 7 will beat it even if you count the Ultra Beast, because Gen 5 has a lot of legendaries.
Yeah, it has like I mentioned, it has 17 legendaries. Gen 4 had 14 legendaries, and Gen 5 had 17.
I guess so. I guess this would be a good place to sort of bring up the decline in the quality of rivals as games move on, because my opinion, I still think Blue is the best rival because he's so antagonistic, and he's like the only rival I just wanted to actively beat into the ground. I like Silver too. Silver because Silver is also antagonistic. I think May and Brendan can't even be considered rivals.
They're not
like twice or thrice.
They're not really rivals. They're more like hindrances. They're more like hindrances.
And even Wally is like not like that difficult or that prominent. I've heard people enjoy Barry. I don't care for him personally as a rival. No. And I think Gen 5 was pretty good. I think Gen 5 had decent rivals. I think after Silver and Blue, I think Gen 5 has the best rivals. So it was like a return to form for some rivals.
Gen 5 gave you the variety of rivals, if I remember correctly. You had Bianca and you had that other guy. What was his name?
Sharon.
Yeah.
Sharon, yeah.
And then he also becomes the 8th gym leader later on, right? Or a gym leader later on.
The first or second gym leader, I think.
Sorry, yeah, first or second, yeah.
So that being now that I'm talking about Sharon being the gym leader, I think we all agreed that Black and White belong in the A tier.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
But let's talk about Black and White 2, because we're talking about the story plot from 3 years later, which is actually where Black and White 2 is set. Character development, new, like same region, new layout. It feels fresh in this sequel. I mean, you're starting off in the same region, but it feels fresh because you're from a new location. Like no longer the hindrance of having to only catch Pokemon from that generation anymore. Amazing storyline with the improvement of Team Plasma. Your rival is somewhat better. He is like, he's not the best rival, like nothing on Silver or like not the level of Silver or Blue by far, but like he at least has some motivation and some development. Although technically he's still your friend, but what can I say? The Pokemon World Championship.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I feel like the best Pokemon games we've ever had are Black and White 2.
Better than Heart Gold and Soul Silver?
No, I think they're just on par with each other.
I mean, yeah. I think they are really up there. They are special games. And like I remember, the first time I saw the Pokemon World Tournament and seeing I could fight gym leaders from every previous generation, Elite Four members from every previous generation. I could fight Red again. I could fight Blue again. It was amazing. Exactly. I loved it. And I loved how they had like not just their box standard teams, but they're like they got with the times. Like Lance would have like this incredible team full of dragons. Like he'd have a guard jump, he'd have a
Exactly.
Salamence.
Exactly. And it's just amazing. I mean, I can't think of anything wrong with Black and White 2. Like, honestly. Even the plot's amazing, everything's amazing. I think it deserves the S rank. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I
I
agree,
think
especially now that you remove the shackles of just having Unova Pokemon and you can branch out and pull from previous generations. That really just like lifts them up.
I agree.
I think we're pretty much set. I don't think there's anything more that can be said. So let's talk about Gen 6, the first games of Gen 6 really quickly. X and Y, 3DS first games, 3D models, the ability to Mega Evolution, everything is great. Story lacking. Battle Frontier is not, the Battle Maison is not that great. Not a lot of post game content apart from the Looker story. They could have been better. Like where we were with Black and White 2 and where we are now with X and Y, I feel like X and Y were a letdown on a large scale from like what we were expecting it to be. There's a lot of like plot threads that never even got answered, like the letter at the train station, the ghost girls, the like anything. I just feel like this game was visually great. This region was great, fantastic. The gym leaders were nothing to sneeze right home about. The champions, the Diantha wasn't even that strong a champion, if I'm being honest. If I had to, I'd say I'd put it down at C with these guys. Do you guys agree or disagree?
So weirdly, I think the most amount of time I've ever invested in a game was probably my Pokemon Y. And that's because, well, I did have a DS. I didn't really get that invested in the DS line of games. But I did when I saw X and Y and I saw the 3D models and the 3D world we got, that I was actually captivating enough to hook me in. I enjoyed the game thoroughly. But the weird thing is I enjoyed it more after I finished it, because I just enjoy breeding Pokemon for competitive. Because I think the best thing X and Y did is that the player search system was beautiful. Like the way they handled online is what really made these games, because the access to trading, the access to battling, wonder trading, and you still had like some component of the GTS. So I think the real gem that this game had was its look. First of all, I loved the 3D models. I loved the environment. And I think the other thing that I had going for it was the beautiful online sort of the way it encouraged online play and the ease of access of online for everyone. Because all you needed was just a Wi-Fi and you could battle anyone, anywhere, trade with anyone at any time. And Wonder Trading, I think, was one of the coolest things. I still have fond memories of Wonder Trade Wednesday when we would all get up and we'd start trading, sending out things into the world so we could get the hopes of getting a shiny Pokemon. It was also one of the first games where I actively started shiny hunting, because it was such an ease of access to shiny hunting. So I have very fond memories of X and Y. But the thing is, like I said, the memories are not of the main story, the main campaign, or going through it. It's like once I'd finished, like that was like kind of like I want to get this done as quickly as possible so I can get to the other stuff, which is like hunting and battling, right? So yeah, there's definite flaws with the story. It's like they don't even really explain it all that well. Team Flare is an embarrassment of a team. They're so weak. They only have like one Pokemon or like two maximum. The grunts are like awful.
Yeah.
I can't even remember that much about Lysander. Honestly, that I think what was it? Mega Gyarados was his ace Pokemon.
I think so.
Yeah.
He had that weird backpack with like the things coming out of it, like the weird tentacle things. I will say I did love Yveltal and Azurnius's designs. I think they're some of the prettiest looking legendaries.
They definitely are, especially the stories attached to them. They're pretty great. The life and death Pokemon, essentially.
And yeah, like I said, it was nice to like get access to so many Pokemon, like being able to catch Eevee in the wild for like one of the first times ever. Just like be able to catch like Riolu in the wild. It was nice, but it was so easy and so hand-holdy. The experience share that's always on, getting gifted a Mega Lucario from a gym leader. It's a very, very easy game, but I think if anyone does like ever want to play them, play it as quickly as possible, get all the story threads and all that garbage out of the way, and just enjoy the post-game content, which is you breeding, you battling, and all that. And just one last note: terrible rivals.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like horrible rivals. And yeah, Amar, do you have anything to add?
You guys already talked so much. I don't even know what to add anymore. Uh, I'll keep it very brief. Story is really bad. Team flair is really bad. Gameplay is amazing after you finish all the annoying plot threads. It pisses me off that we never got the Dark Floette thing.
I was just going to mention that we never got Izzy's Floette.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was about to say that too.
Yeah.
We never got it.
It pisses me off. That's one of the many things that pisses me off. The legendaries were lacking. I don't really care about that right now in this particular game. But the breeding was fun. The trading was fun. Wonder Trade Wednesdays is one of my favorite memories of all time when it comes to Pokemon, and it's a shame that it's over. But yeah, at the level that it is, I cannot changing it. C is the best rank to give it.
And just one last thing, just to add on that, I think the weakest Elite Four ever. They don't even have 5 Pokemon.
Yeah, they don't have 4.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, Diantha has 5.
Does Diantha have 5?
Diantha has 5.
Oh wait, Diantha doesn't have 6 Pokemon?
Nope.
What? I didn't even think about that. Oh, jeez. Or I thought you said, I heard Drancia for a second. I'm like, does Drancia have 5? No, even Drancia has 4.
Diantha has 5 Pokemon, and that's just like that's what I'm saying. Like Diantha is not even on the top at this point. Not even the top 5 best champions.
To be fair, I did like her team, except that she just sucks. It's not her fault. But her team's pretty neat. I do like her team, like Aurora's, Mega Gardevoir.
Mega Gardevoir should have been a pain in the butt to face, but you can one-shot it so easily.
Also, kudos to X and Y for making the fairy type, and I think Sylveon is one of my favorite Pokemon.
I agree. It's really great. It's a really good Pokemon.
I'm not a big fan of Sylveon, but I do like the fairy typing because I had an argument with my friend that fairy types cannot be dragons despite the type advantage, and then I made a team of fairies and kicked his butt with just a Clefable. So,
oh dude, let's not talk about how broken Clefable was in Gen 6. Minimized store power. It was a nightmare to fight Clefable.
It was crazy. All right, so now moving on to the next set of games. Let's talk about Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, fun to revisit the Hoenn region that I'm pretty sure we all love so much, especially since we put it on 8 year before, having access to every Pokemon up till Generation 6. The Delta episode, because my god, the Delta episode was great. But I don't know. I think it's because we played Hoenn so much that I just felt a bit more Hoenn fatigue when playing Auras. And I feel like despite the whole, apart from the Delta episode and the whole the small little Looker cutscene and the lack of a frontier, it could have been better. I feel like it didn't improve upon the original Ruby and Sapphire, apart from just having better graphics and a better post game. And because of that, I personally feel that Auras, despite being a graphical upgrade, having a few more features such as super training and that Pokemon hunting feature, I think it still maintains its spot in the A rank. I'm sure your thoughts.
I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I actually did not like Auras at all. And the reason being, when we make a remake of a game, right, for anything, whether it's Pokemon or any sort of franchise, how I sort of stack it up is, does this justify its existence? In the sense that when they remade it, did they change enough? Did they make some things better? Did they improve upon critiques that were of the original game? And did they keep the true spirit of the original game while also like trying to improve on it? I didn't care for Auras at all, and I don't know why I didn't. It had some really nice things. I did like the Pokeradar feature, which you could sneak up on Pokemon and find rarer Pokemon. It was an easier way to shiny hunt. I enjoyed that. But I think sort of what happened. It sort of got the infection from Gen 6 onwards about trying to hold your hand through the game. And I did feel that a lot in ORAS, especially the fact that you just get a Latios/Latias given to you. And I wasn't a huge fan of that. It's sort of like it felt more hand-holdy than the original. I felt like it didn't do enough to separate itself. And then it also removed features a la the Battle Frontier, which is something I was looking forward to, like a Gen 6 version of. I don't know, in the end, it just kind of fell flat for me, even with the new Mega Evolutions for some of the, Hoenn Pokemon. I did like some of them. Big gripe that we didn't get a Mega Flygon, and the reason being because they couldn't think of a design for Mega Flygon. We didn't get a lot of cool Megas that we could have gotten. I was hoping for like a Mega Tropius.
Ooh,
because like Absol got a Mega. But I don't know, it felt underwhelming to me overall. I wasn't a huge fan of them. I had Omega Ruby and I had Pokemon Y. And if you asked me which I would prefer playing, I would prefer playing my Y. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. I would definitely bump it down to B, maybe top of C, because I just wasn't interested.
All right. Amar, Wayne.
Okay. Yeah. I have a lot to say, in fact. I love Generation 3 more than any other generation in Pokemon right now, and that's pretty obvious. I made that very clear. And I think that's the reason I loved Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire a lot more, because it's like a rehashing of one of my, not a rehashing, sorry, basically an improvement on one of my favorite generations of Pokemon. And it did have some improvements, honestly. The land and sea aspects was much better. The ability to use a Mega Latios or Latias to fly around the island, fly around the entire region, roaming around. It had a lot more after game effects, like say having to catching specific legendaries throughout the entire game through wormholes. I love that feature. Yes, I will say it is a little irritating that they give you Latios or Latias like very early in the game. It is something that is an issue, but at the same time, I don't mind it too much. Mostly because the rest of the game's aspects mixed up for the whole Primal Kyogre, Primal Groudon arc. That was pretty good. The Delta episode was absolutely amazing. I would honestly restart my game right now just to play it all over again. But at the same time, yeah, there's nothing completely new to make it amazing. It has some of the major handholding that's in Gen 6, but honestly, there are a set of games that have way more handholding comparatively. But I would keep it on I would say it's a low A and a very high B.
So I feel like based on that, we're going to be moving ORAS down to B.
I mean, look, so objectively, like if I were to say something, if you ask me which I would prefer playing, I would prefer playing the originals. And
that's a fair point.
And then it's sort of like I'm sort of like weighing it in comparison to the quality of other remakes, right? As you can see in our list, Fire Red and Soul Silver and Heart Gold are all in S tier, right? And the fact that we even decided to put ORAS in A tier / high B tier means that there wasn't, it wasn't plain as day, that sort of distinction or that sort of noticeable upgrade in quality. I don't know. It's a hard call because you could enjoy both games equally. You could enjoy the originals and I think ORAS equally. They're both equally good. And I feel like that's sort of my issue with them is that they're so on such even footing. I don't feel like enough was changed. Like it's still the Gen 3 experience, but I don't think like the graphical update is all that amazing. I do actually kind of prefer the sprite work of Gen 3.
That is true.
Yeah, that does.
But one positive thing I will add to this is that it makes shiny hunting a lot more fun.
Oh yeah, it does have a neat shiny hunting feature. And yeah, it is kind of neat that you can get a lot of legendaries through the wormholes, which I kind of did enjoy. And you can shiny hunt those as well, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's also interesting. And if I remember correctly as well, it's also like particular times of the day that could the wormhole be open, and then you could get the certain Pokemon. That was also very interesting.
Specific requirements, like you need to have a Pokemon with 100% happiness. You need to have certain Pokemon above level 100. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was fun.
Depends on the Pokemon. Yeah, that was pretty good. But let's move on to our next generation, Generation 7. We're 2 generations away from closing down this list. And right off the bat, I want to start off by placing these games on the tier list before I talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Sun and Moon. I absolutely despise Sun and Moon. You tried so hard to do something new, and it could have been fun. But what was the point of all those island challenges if in the end you were just gonna have an Elite Four anyway? What was the point? And oh my god, like if you thought Gen 6 hand holding was bad, I fell asleep twice playing through Sun and Moon because there was just too much dialogue in that game. Like you walk 2 steps and someone's talking to you about plot. I mean, and I'm pretty sure thrice somebody in the game reminds you, oh, did you know you can register items in your bag? Press this button to do that. I mean, my God, this game. Yes, I know some people are gonna revolt that it's not a little higher at least, but I cannot. I mean, yes, an RPG is supposed to be dialogue heavy, but man, this is uber dialogue heavy. The amount of dialogue in this game could fit Ulysses. Jeez. I do not like Sun and Moon. I mean, yes, I enjoyed the aesthetic of the region. I enjoyed some of the Pokemon designs, but that gameplay was not player friendly because of the amount of dialogues and hand holding and everything that was in that game. I just couldn't enjoy it. I tried to play through it a second time very recently, and I just couldn't. I got to the electric totem and the electric guy, I forget his name. I got to him and then I just gave up. Like I stopped playing. I just couldn't do it anymore.
You mean Tapu Koko?
No, I think he means the electric gym challenge, though the island challenge, that weird little kid with the scarf. That weird kid.
Okay, yeah, that guy too.
Yeah,
I remember his name either. He has a weird name. I remember his name.
I got to him. I got as far as him, and that's after pushing myself for 2 weeks to play that game, and then I just gave up. I just couldn't do it anymore. And that's all I have to say. If anybody has any changes or anything to say about this, now is the time. Floor is yours.
Well, don't let my shirt fool you. I am wearing an Alola shirt, but that's because it's adorable, and I 100% agree with you. I think Sun and Moon was probably the worst Pokemon experience I've ever had in any of generations. Just to break it down, like this was like when I knew like what's happening exactly. Like there were, obviously we could talk about probably the longest intro in Pokemon history, where they're trying to explain everything to you, and then even when you start after the intro, every 5 seconds someone stops you and tells you something that you should have known for like the last 20 years. Yes, I know newer generations, newer kids are playing Pokemon. They need to be told these things, but by God, they need to be told them every 5 seconds. I think this was like, this is what I remember. I believe Hala is the fire guy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Fire? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember I was on his island just about to start his island challenge, and I was just, I think, grinding outside a patch of grass right before his entrance. And exclusively in that patch of grass, you get nothing but water Pokemon and rock Pokemon. And I'm like, the game is literally holding my hand, pulling me here and saying, hey, this is the fire challenge. I'm giving you water and rock types to defeat the fire challenge. And I'm like, is the game really doing this? It won't even let me figure out type effectiveness myself. And even when you're in the battles, I think this was the first generation where it actually shows you, if you've seen the Pokemon before, this move is super effective. You don't have to think anymore at all, ever. You have to remember type effectiveness. And I think, okay, this was my biggest gripe with the game. I think literally a generation ago, I was raving about how I adored X and Y's player search system. What in the name of God was happening in Sun and Moon that was it like Friend Plaza, Festival Plaza, whatever the hell it was. I dropped in there once, and then that was another separate 30-minute tutorial. Oh, this is how we do this. This is how you trade. This is how you do that. And I never did anything in that game. I never went back to the Festival Plaza. Initially, I'm like, yeah, the plot's not great. Maybe I can just do an X and Y with this. I can get through the plot and then enjoy the post game with my breeding and trading and wonder trading. But it was all such a mess. It was handled so poorly for me. And even the new Pokemon weren't incredible. I didn't like a lot of them. Some of them were kind of cool, but overall, I didn't like the additions that they made. And not having gyms kind of sucked. Not having like even the Elite Four was kind of like weak because it was just people you had fought before. I don't know. And honestly, I was so turned off by the time I became champion. I didn't even really bother playing the post game.
I mean, I totally agree with everything you've said, but let's see what Amar has to say, since he's definitely played Generation 7 a little bit more than I have. He's played through it twice. I couldn't play it the second time.
Yeah, I played through it twice because, long story short, I had a Pokemon Sun. I finished it in like 2 days, 3 days max, and I finished the side story and everything because I was so excited to play this game. Then my initial 3DS went missing or got stolen. I'm not entirely sure, along with my Pokemon Sun. Then 3 years later, I decided to get a 3DS and a new Pokemon Sun and play all over again. Then it's the second playthrough, in fact, where I realized how pathetic the game actually is. Honestly, if there was a tier lower than D, I would put it there. The hand-holding is tedious. It is the most tedious hand-holding I have dealt with in any Pokemon game. Almost. Another issue? Yeah, okay, fine. But island challenges. Okay, island challenges is not something I have a problem with too much. Okay, but I agree with Amsh. They handhold you in the typings as well, and that is just irritating. Now, the other problem I have, the ally calling thing that the wild Pokemon do, like, the Pokemon's in trouble, they'll call their ally Pokemon. You all know this story. I got a shiny Espeon through that. In my first.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know you could call for an Espeon.
Yeah, apparently EVs can. EVs can call their evolutions as backups, and out of nowhere, it called an Espeon, and I got a shiny Espeon through that. And that wasn't my first Pokemon Sun. The one that went missing / got stolen. I'm not sure. So imagine my irritation when I tried to reenact that, and I could not get the shiny Espeon again.
You have to sit there for a bit. Like I kind of like the ally sort of thing because it was another way to shiny hunt. Any new ways you can give it a shiny hunt, I enjoy. Mm-hmm. The only real fond memory I had of Sun and Moon was, I think this was early on in my game, and I think I was in the first island. Don't even remember the name of the islands because I don't know. I didn't care too much. And there was like basically a town you can cut across like a patch of grass to go like through the town quicker. And I'm like, I'll just use this patch of grass because I don't want to go all the way around. Go in the middle and suddenly a random encounter, full odds, shiny Meowth, alone Meowth.
Wow.
So that's nice. My only fond memory of that game because that's one of the very few full odds shiny encounters. I've only had 3 in my life. That was the third one. Just a quick sort of mention. I don't think we mentioned on it. What did you guys think of Alolan forms, or just sort of this precedence of pushing it into the Pokemon universe and canon now that there are alternate forms of Pokemon?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about.
I didn't really have too much of a problem with it. Mainly because it makes sense that certain Pokemon would evolve differently in certain regions. I do understand one problem that one precedent it sets that we'll get to when we get to those last games right there on that list. But I didn't have a problem with the Alolan Meowth. I didn't have a problem with the Alolan Vulpix. I felt like it did more to improve like the competitiveness of certain Pokemon than it did to generally just create this, we didn't like Vulpix, so we made it a nice type. No, I feel like
who didn't like Vulpix?
I'm just giving you an example. Like we all know one of Amar's favorite Pokemon is Vulpix,
I love Vulpix to death. I love Vulpix so much.
right?
See, look,
But
my
like,
only thing about Alolan forms is just that it was neat when we sort of got them. Some of them were a bit goofy, some of them were a bit odd. And again, I do understand the real world context. I did like that. But my sort of issue was then like, it was sort of like, you know, how we're like now in Hollywood and in media sort of rehashing everything from the 80s, rehashing everything from the 90s, and just making remake after remake after remake. Was this the Pokemon company saying that, you know, we're actually kind of spreading thin on Pokemon ideas? Let's just go back to what we've done and just start reusing that and repackaging that and giving that back to the fans. So, you know, it looks like we did get more forms after. So I don't know if this is going to be something we get every new generation now, or is this something we're just going to limit here?
well, I guess we'll find out on Pokemon Day if there are certain plans for another rehashing, because Pokemon Day is like literally the day this goes live.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what happens there. I feel like the precedent will be set with whatever we get on Pokemon Day,
That's
which
fair.
which I can explain. Like, let's see if they decide we want Sinnoh variants of Pokemon now. Like, let's suppose on the off chance we get Sinnoh remix, that would decide what the precedent actually is.
Yeah.
But then again, the question is, would they make Sinnoh remakes? Like not Sinnoh remakes. I mean, I'm like Sinnoh variants of Pokemon, because they've been doing this with the new generations, not the existing ones.
We'll never know until we find out. Honestly, it's just to see what happens, because before Gen 7 we didn't have
Okay, I
alternate
mean,
forms
and
of
also
either.
to be fair, Mar, they did go back in Gen 6 and make variants, mega evolutions of existing Gen 3 Pokemon. So who's to say they can't make new
Exactly.
evolutions / variations of old Pokemon in Sinnoh?
Like the whole Primal Dialga that they had in
Exactly.
Pokemon Dungeon.
Could be.
Yeah. So let's just move on. We have a few sets of games left. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Not gonna say much. Literally a rehash of the previous game for the most part, with the additional post game and a change of story, which was pretty nice. But I think the change of story in Team Rainbow Rocket in the post as part of the game literally only warrants it to go just like one higher, in my opinion.
Yep, and that's what I would exactly say. Team Rainbow Rocket, the slightly adjusted story, and then despite being one of the most hand-holding games in the series, one of the most legit terrifying final bosses ever in Ultra Necrozma, because that thing was something.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Like
that
even if we didn't have Team Rainbow Rocket or any of the other stuff, it was just the same game with Ultra Necrozma, I'd still bump it up one, because that was actually legitimately something special.
I agree.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. It's like it adds something new, and that's what kind of makes it a little better, but it still has its problems, but it's just enough to make it slightly better.
I don't think we have a lot to say about Ultra Sun Ultra Moon, because, like we said, it's literally just a retelling of the previous game with just a few changes. So I guess we're pretty much covered with that. The next two set of games where we rank them is going to be a little controversial, except for the first set. I mean, I genuinely like Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, because I feel like it's a really good starting point for especially new people coming into Pokemon on the Switch. Like, coming in from, let's say, like kids playing Pokemon Go come into the Switch. Now they play Let's Go. I enjoyed the concept of Pokemon Let's Go, but it's still a rehash of Kanto. It's literally almost the exact same game with a few little tweaks here and there. Pokemon following you is great. Interacting with your buddy is great. I don't think it's as bad as people say. Like, if we got a Let's Go Johto, I genuinely play that game. I genuinely like that game. But despite that, I would put it at either low C or high D, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna put it at low C unless you guys can convince me otherwise.
So for me, it's sort of like how you view these games, right? If you were sort of viewing them and saying that, you know, that if we consider them mainline games, and you're like, oh well, compared to the mainline games, these games are garbage. Okay, if that's what your criteria for basing the games is, yes, there's no items, there's no abilities, you only limit it strictly to the first 151 plus Alolan variants, and Melmetal is the only thing that you can get aside from those. You know, it's dumbed down. Like, to the point where it's like as dumb as Pokemon can be. So if you're looking at it from that lens, like from a competitive lens, is this comparing to like the previous entries in the series kind of thing, then yeah, I agree that it should be towards the lower end. But I just assess them as games I just genuinely enjoyed playing, because weirdly it was very refreshing to get a break from the traditional Pokemon formula and see them sort of venture out and do something a little bit different. I enjoyed getting to see the overworld sprites of Pokemon. I think that was one of my favorite things that they implemented. That I could see Pokemon, you could catch Pokemon that were never unattainable in the wild. Everything's in the wild in this game, which I love, which makes it feel like an actual Pokemon world. Because if you watch the anime, you can find Bulbasaur and Charmander and Squirtle in the wild. But in the game, there was strict, like only Oak had these Pokemon. So I enjoyed that you can catch everything in the wild. The throwing mechanic is frustrating to start, but once you get the hang of it, it's kind of fun. And again, the battling is sort of like, it's the focus of the game is not to battle. The focus of the game is to collect and enjoy and go out and explore. And by God, I adored shiny hunting in this game. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. Shiny hunting, like seeing the overworld sprite go shiny. That's the best part.
Oh yeah, I'm so glad they did that.
Amar, your thoughts?
Okay, I have a few things to say. One, its hand holding is not as bad as Sun and Moon, but is there, especially with the whole aspect of it focusing more on being Let's Go. It focuses more on the Pokemon Go aspect rather than the official way of playing Pokemon. I don't mind the variation, and I don't mind some of the aspects that they followed, but I mean, the catching aspect, I hated at first. A little bit of me still does, mostly because it's a waste of Pokeballs, and especially when it's just like you just miss because it decides to curve randomly. Sometimes, again, you need to get used to throwing the Pokeball. Another thing that really bothers me, especially with the shiny hunting aspect, is that when the Pokemon runs away, the entire thing resets. So if you build up to
true even for like that's even true for shiny hunting in normal though.
That is the case as well there. And it actually frustrated me is that when I tried my best to get a shiny of something and I ended up getting a shiny Marowak, not a Marowak, sorry, Cubone, while exploring, I think, the Cerulean Caves. And yeah.
I don't remember the nests.
I don't remember the nests that much. Oh, I think it was Diglett's Cave. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember. But yeah. These are the major issues that I had. The Pokemon Masters thing, irritating with certain Pokemon. But overall, yeah, I'd say it's a low C to high D. I would put it on D, honestly.
I would be fine if it stayed in C. I wouldn't mind if it was low B. I think D is a bit mean because they don't try to pretend that they're being like they're high competitive, high level Pokemon games. They're pretty upfront about what they are, and it's just fun. And it's okay to sometimes have fun in sacrifice of series traditions.
I agree. And I just like to point out before we move on to the next set of games, and I rank them, that I have beat half of the master trainers. Just saying. Okay. Anyway, moving on. The last set of games we have to talk about, Pokemon Sword and Shield. People hate these games, but bear with me for a sec. When I put them in A, and the reason I put them in A is because these games are fun. I mean, yes, there's still hand-holdy. I recently did a Nuzlocke on the channel as well, and although my Nuzlocke ended because I whited out, but still, it was a fun experience. There's a lot of, I mean, yes, we don't have access to every Pokemon, and that's why people hate it. But we didn't have access to every Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire either. People love Ruby and Sapphire. With the addition of the DLC, the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra, they were amazing to be able to explore 200 extra Pokemon. The legendary raid system, amazing. How much fun have the three of us had doing raids in these games?
Oh, a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I remember us getting up early morning, just going for looking for G-Max Pokemon to just kind of catch and try to get good that. I remember us glitzing the game into getting G-Max Charizards. Like these, I don't know. These games are great. I feel like this game gets a lot of hate for reasons that no previous game has gotten hate for, and I would put them at A. What are your thoughts?
So I think that might be a bit too high. I'm not saying it's overly wrong or like you're wrong for putting them in A. Personally, if you ask me, I think they're solid B entries. And my only gripes with them, the two gripes I have, handholdy, man, I want to smash Hop's face in sometimes because I can't stand him. Because every 2 seconds you do something, every time you leave one area, Hop's just standing there. Hey, this is this. Hey, this is that. If it's not Hop, it's Sonia. If it's not Sonia, it's like someone else. It's like almost getting to. It's not as bad as Gen 7, but it's like on a similar vein. And the other thing I didn't quite adore about Gen 8, that the fact that they didn't really get new character models, they sort of reused the models they had from the 3DS, and we didn't get new move animations for a lot of things. Some of them stayed relatively the same, which again, with I think that's sort of the reason why people were so disappointed, because we were expecting this was the first time we'd have a Pokemon main series game on a console as opposed to a handheld. And I think people were expecting them to like really break the mold and really, really deviate from what we've established as the norm. And when they didn't get that, they sort of just, all the frustration they had came out. But I don't know if this is a controversial take or not, but I actually enjoyed the fact that I didn't have access to every Pokemon.
Same.
Because the reason I like that is because then it sort of forces me to enjoy the new Pokemon I have. Because then what happens is like, if for example, I love Metagross, for example, right? And in the game, there was an option for me to get a Beldum or get a Metang or a Metagross. I would take that option because I just like Metagross, right? The fact that you've limited me to a certain number of Pokemon means I have to make do with what I have. And I do enjoy that because you get to try out Pokemon you've never tried before, whether they're new or old. And, sort of and the things, I never spoil Pokemon games for myself, never spoil any of the Pokemon. So I go in blind. So it was super exciting that I got to see mostly new Pokemon and catch them and train them and evolve them. Raid battles were great. Enjoyed the heck out of them. The surprise of finding what's inside. If it's a shiny, it's even more intense. And if you're raiding with someone, there's always that slight chance you don't get to catch it, which is always, I remember Amar had a run of bad luck because we would have raid battles where Omer would catch it, I would catch it, and Omer would go yes, I'd go yes, and then after 10 seconds we'd hear Amar, it broke out. I wish we could have done the only sort of thing I wish we could have seen is like, how with sort of the camera angles and sort of the graphics of the wild area. First off, there are some, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I did get some frame rate issues in the wild area at times, especially if there's certain weather up, like it's raining or it's snowing. The frame rate can come down to a crawl. It can sometimes affect the run of the game. But I wish we had gotten that perspective, those camera angles for the entire game. And hopefully down the line, that's what Game Freak does, to sort of realize, we can make a cinematic Pokemon game. We can make an open world game, and because we can push the limits of the Switch and we can make one. And hopefully that's what we'll get coming up on Pokemon Day.
Hopefully. Amar, take it away.
Okay, I will keep mine a little brief. I loved the wild area. I loved the story was not that great, honestly. It wasn't too great of a story. But the whole Eternatus thing was fun. And the whole that story aspect I absolutely loved. Everything else was a very meh. The game is fun. I still have a lot of fun playing it to this day. But it also got a little more fun with the addition of the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra. Not because of story, but more because of or because of new Pokemon, but because of new areas to explore, new places to have fun with, finding Pokemon, catching them. The new Pokemon had a nice touch to it, but I mostly love the idea of having a new place to explore, and those two places had that addition. If they decide to add more of this type of stuff into Sword and Shield later down the road, I'll happily enjoy it. Not the story, but more of the exploration. This game, I would have to agree, is it's a low A. I would say it's a very low A. It has its fun, it has its moments, but it isn't like up there with the Pokemon, with games that I would replay from the beginning. It's not a replay from the beginning game. It's a game where you explore post game. So for that reason, I would say it belongs in B.
So
I say towards top of B. Yeah, that's where I would say they go. Also, right. just a quick take here before we wrap things up. I see a lot of people not liking Leon. You guys are wrong. Leon's great. I love Leon. He's a cool champion.
He
I
is an
enjoy him.
awesome champion. He is an OP
Yeah,
champion.
he's a great champion. He is a great champion. A good one we haven't had in a long time, honestly. Like the last two generations before him weren't that great.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Leon was a breath of fresh air as a champion. All right. Wow, I did not expect to see a lot of B's and C's, honestly. And I'm glad to see D is a bit lacking for us. And yeah, with that, Amsh, thanks again for being a part of this and for being for helping us rank these Pokemon games. Hopefully, we'll see you in a few more podcast episodes down the line.
Well, you know where to
And,
find me, and I'm always here for any kind of Pokemon list or any kind of list in general. I just love talking to you guys.
Yeah, I love talking to you too, buddy. And with that, I think it's time we wrap this up. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the list. What changes would you make to our list? Let us know in the comment section below. And be sure to like and subscribe. And have a nice day, everybody. I'm signing off. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye bye.